Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. This episode, now, some of you may be starting to feel like Bare Bones Wargaming has entered a fifth dimension. This might seem a little Twilight Zone-ish. Some of you may recognize this map, some of you recognize this game. For reasons that I cannot explain, and reasons that I'm not sure how to even go into, for the first time in about somewhere between a dozen to 15 years, I actually am very interested in the American Civil War again. I've been reading Landscape Turned Red, almost finished with that. I picked up a couple of other Civil War books, and I've picked up some Civil War games, so you can expect to see some Civil War videos here in the near future. I'm also working on a scenario for Here Come the Rebels, which I mentioned before, McClellan's Opportunity, but I'm trying to do a scenario set up a couple days earlier than that, just to see what might have been, what might have happened. But more about that when we get to that. I've been working on that quite a bit with an excellent book that basically has a slew of atlases. I'll share that with you whenever I do the video. Today, though, we're taking a look at an oldie but a goodie. The game Across 5 Aprils, published by Victory Games and designed by Eric Lee Smith, who also did games, I believe, like Mosby's Raiders. I think he also did too, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, 5 games in one, as you can see here at the top. First Bull Run, Pea Ridge, Shiloh, Gettysburg, and Bentonville. The game's pretty straightforward. It's an interesting little game. It's a fun little game. So I'm going to go over here. Some of you already recognize this. I'm going to go over the Shiloh scenario. Of course, since the anniversary of Shiloh is coming up here, April 6th, 7th, I thought I would go ahead and cover that. Now, I'm actually jumping into the game on turn 5, okay, because the first turns are really the Confederate Army maneuvering into position and, of course, catching the Federals by surprise. So, that's what I've done here already. And this game is a chit pool game. So you have your chits that go into a cup, and one of them you can see there is your combat chit. More about that here in a little bit. Okay? And that's one of the things that makes it very solo friendly, is the chit pool system. So what I've done is I've deployed some of my troops. I've tried this scenario a couple of times already here before, sharing it with you guys. And you can see my gray line there that I've got set up. From the bottom, I've got Bragg's men, up to Breckinridge's men holding the center, and then we've got Hardee's men, and then Polk up here. And I'm sure you can see from this line I've left a little bit of a gap, but I'm hoping to turn both of these flanks and squeeze before the Yankees can get their reinforcements up there. Okay? So, that's where we're at here as we begin turn 5. So let me go ahead and pull the first chit. And let's see if the chit hits the fan, so to speak. Or as my high school English teacher used to like to say, if the ship hits the sand. Alright, first marker is Polk's First Corps. Now when you draw whatever unit it is, okay, you can activate all the units that are part of that. So we're going to go up here to the northern part of the map. Whoops. And we're going to take a look at the green units that are there. Sorry about that bounce. Okay, because that's where Polk is up here. Polk's forces are up on this arc here because I'm trying to swing them down here, and there's this lone cavalry unit already behind enemy lines. Now, the special rules for the Shiloh scenario, the Union cannot react or do anything or even get a marker to draw for their forces in the cup until a rebel unit comes into their zone of control. So I've been very carefully trying to maneuver everything and get ready to pounce. Okay. Now, units, of course, this is normal stuff. You know, roads are help with movement costs and stuff. Zones of control, standard stuff. If you move into them, you have to stop. You can't move directly from one to the other. Those kind of things. There's not a whole lot of surprises with this game, to be honest. It is very much, if you're a traditional wargamer, you've done a lot of wargaming, you will recognize all of these things. Okay? So what I'm going to try and do with Polk's men here is I'm going to try and destroy these guys, if possible. Okay? So I'm going to cross the creek here. And units can move 1 hex if they cannot move anything else. So I'm going to send them there. I'm going to go 1, 2, 4 with these guys and move these guys across the creek. So now we got a serious problem here, okay, for that Union force that is stuck in that situation. Now, combat does not automatically happen at the end of every activation. There is a combat chit, as I showed you a few moments ago, and you have to wait until that's pulled. I know that seems a little strange. More about that here in a little bit. Alright, let's see who's next. And again, there are no Yankee chits in the cup. Oh, I don't know whose decision it was to use this yellow. Whew! But that's Bragg. So now we're going all the way to the bottom of the battlefield. Down here, where Bragg is at. So I'm trying to use these guys to basically swoop in and destroy these guys, because remember, these other Union forces will not be able to react until next turn. They won't be able to do anything. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go 2, 3, and I'm just going to push everybody else into here like this. And now that Union force is completely surrounded. I'm going to try and annihilate those guys in place. Alright, so far so good. Of course, then again, one could say so far so good, so what? Next marker. Yeah, luck is with me here. This is Hardee's 3rd Corps. Okay, the guys in brown. Okay, and all the units are color-coded to make it nice. Although, again, that yellow of that Bragg is, whew, that's pretty bad, man. Alright, so let's go up here to the more northern part of the line. Up here are Bragg's men. Now this one's going to be a little bit, or Hardee's men, I'm sorry. This one's going to be a little bit harder here because there's a pretty good cluster of Union troops there. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to hold Hardee's men in place for the most part. I might go ahead and bring across here, well, then again, let me see, because once you move into the zone of control and once combat begins, every single unit has to be attacked that's in a zone of control. You have to do that, okay? It's mandatory. Combat is mandatory in this game. But the rebels do get a 2-column shift to the right for a surprise factor up until, or the first turn they attack. After that, they get 1-column shift. So you know what? Just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and plunge everybody in here. Let's just go for it. Oh, sorry, wrong side. Okay, there we go. At the risk of sounding like the Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, those of you old enough, you know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, look it up. Alright. Who's next? Oh, yeah, this couldn't have gone better if I had scripted this, if I had planned this. It's the Reserve Corps under Breckinridge. Alright, so that's these guys up in the middle of my line here. So let's take a look at their situation. Now these are the guys that have some holes around them, but that's okay. I wasn't really planning on doing anything with them. All right. Let's see. Well, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these guys into here and crash into that flank. And I'll leave this artillery and this cavalry just to hold this line here. Okay, again, trying to envelop and stuff. Alright, now why did I say that this is going exactly to plan? Well, here's why. Because as soon as the combat marker is drawn out of the cup, you have to fight. So if you don't have all your troops in position, they're not all going to get a chance to attack. Okay. Now there's a certain amount of logic to that. Civil War battles, it was notoriously difficult to coordinate an assault between different parts of the field. Even when you weren't as, what's the word I want? Unskilled at it as McClellan with Antietam, even when the battlefield was small. You know, it was very difficult to coordinate things and stuff. So that's why the combat marker kind of simulates that. But I got lucky here, okay? Because after I had drawn Bragg, and I had Bragg and Polk's men in position, if I'd have drawn the combat marker, none of this stuff will be happening right now because I would have drawn it, okay? So let's see what the next marker is. I'm going to see what the next marker is just to show you one thing also about the game. Now, sometimes units get 2 markers. Okay, there's Polk again. But you only get to move the units once per turn. Okay, it just gives you a higher chance that they're going to be activated sooner than your opponent. All right. So with that in mind, the only thing I really have left to pull of any worth is the combat marker. Okay. So now, when the combat marker is pulled, you have to go ahead and fight a battle with every unit that is in the zone of control. Okay, of another unit. All right. Now, you can do, like soaking off attacks if you want. Okay, that is permissible in this game. You can also, if you're the attacker, and let's say the combat marker comes out before you move all your people into place, you can automatically retreat back 1 hex without any kind of losses to basically disengage. That rule is a bit problematic, in my opinion, because it was kind of hard once you got together, so to speak, or as they would say, once the boys got their dander up, it was hard to do that. But that's the rules of the game, so that's how that works. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we'll do some combats here, and then basically I might do a little bit more of a turn. But this, again, this game is very simple. I just wanted to show it to you just in case you weren't familiar with it, you haven't heard of it before, or of course if you have, and you're like, hey, is this worth getting for me? Okay, so alright, so let's start down here. We'll just go bottom to top. It'll be easier that way. Alright, so let's start down here with this unit, which is obviously having a good day at all. Okay? Alright, now you can bring as many units as you want to bear to attack the unit in question, so I'm going to use all of these guys, and this is standard stuff. You add up the attack factors, you work out the defense factors, that's all normal. Okay? So let's see again. This yellow is terrible. So that's 10, 14, 21, blackjack, 31. So that's going to be 31 to 4. Okay, so 31 to 4. That's just basically a ridiculous advantage, naturally enough. 31 to 4 is 7 to 1. Now, the combat columns only go up to 6 to 1. So basically, you know, greater than 6 to 1 is 6 to 1. Less than 1 to 4 is still done at 1 to 4. Okay. Now, we still have to factor in terrain. Here, they are in a forest hex, which would give 1 shift to the left, okay, for the wooded hexes. So that would actually drop it down to 6 to 1. But special rules for the scenario: Confederates get a 2 shift to the right with their first turn of attack, and that's going to basically put it back up to 8 to 1. But again, it'll still be 6 to 1 no matter what. Okay. Now, when you roll a dice, you also are going to use the morale modifier for one of your units to modify the die roll. Now, the Union has no choice here. They'll have to use the -1. I'll go ahead and use these guys down here because they have a 0. Okay, so let's see what happened here. Whoops. Oh, that was unfortunate. That was kind of took a weird bounce. Okay, yeah. All right. So we rolled a 1 and a 5. Okay, 1 for the Rebs. Now, at 6 to 1 with a 1, okay, I mean, they still cause 2 steps of damage and an R. Now, an R is a retreat, a mandatory 1 hex retreat that you must do. Okay, now, you cannot retreat into enemy zones of control unless there is a friendly unit there. If you need to, then you're going to suffer another step loss, which, of course, most units only have 1, at the most 2. Most units have 2. Some have 1, but no more than that. So that's basically going to destroy these guys. Okay, so we did roll a 5, -1 down to a 4. So let's look there, 6 to 1 on the 4. Well, that's a dash, so nothing happened there. Okay, so these guys completely destroyed. And of course, like most games from days gone by, you can do your advance after combat into the vacated hex. Okay, so big win there to start the battle. So let's climb up here to the north now. And let's go up here to the next fight, which will be up here. Now this one will be a little different because the Union has places they can run to here. Okay. Alright. So we've got 12 and 3. That's 15 to 7. Now that's only 2 to 1. Okay. With the forest hex, it would go down to 1 to 1. But remember, first turn surprise attack, it'll go back up to 3 to 1. Okay. Now the Union force there is a 0. I'll use this Confederate force here, also a 0. Ooh, the Union is putting up a fight, that's for sure. Okay, so the Confederates at their, gosh, I already forgot the odds, I'm sorry. Let's see what that was. 2 to 1, 1 to 1, 3 to 1. 3 to 1. 3 to 1 with the 3. Alright, so 3 to 1 with the 3. That's 1 hit and a retreat. Okay, so they will have to go ahead and retreat. That's what they inflict on the Union. The Union rolled a 6 at 3 to 1. Oh, so they will cause 1 step of damage, and they have to retreat too. Okay, So, the Union, defender retreats first, will flip to their reduced side, and they will fall back. Now, anytime you get an R result, then you have to do a morale check. Now, a morale check's pretty simple. You use the number like we were using for combat here, which is a 0, and you basically roll the die. Success is 4 to 6. You passed your morale check. 1 to 3, you fail. Okay, in this particular case, this Union unit failed. So now that means they have to retreat another hex. Now, fortunately for them, that's no big deal. They'll fall back there. Okay, now the Confederates all have to fall back 1 hex too. Okay, so that is a little unexpected. Okay, and they also took a step loss, which is taken from the unit that you took the morale from. Now I have to roll morale check for all 3 of these units, and you use the morale for each unit that's there. Okay, so this one here is a 0, the one that took the loss. They rolled a 4, so they're okay. Up here, top one is also a 0. They rolled a 5, they're good to go. I am just dropping dice everywhere today. And the bottom unit rolled a 5, 0 morale modifier, so they are going to stay put too. So they won't retreat another hex. But it does give the Union at least a little bit of breathing room there, okay, in that situation. Alright, let's move up here now. Okay, so we'll go ahead and let's see, how do I want to do this? Actually, you know what? I'm going to go jump up to here a little bit. I'm going to do the polk attack just in case I get to advance. Then I can kind of put more pressure on those guys there. Okay, so let's see what we got here. We've got 2, 8 and 2 is 10, plus 9. That's 19 to 5, 3 to 1. Okay, Woods reduces it to 2 to 1. Surprise takes it back up to 4 to 1. Now again, the Union has a -1, and the Confederates will have a 0. Wow. Jeez. You know what? The Confederates might have been able to draw all those chits in the right order and perfectly, but look at this. The Union is just fighting fiercely. Alright, so 4 to 1, A1 will cause 1 step of damage, but no retreat or anything. So the Union actually is in pretty good shape there. And they rolled a 6, which is modified to a 5. They will also cause 1 point of damage. Okay? So not too bad. But we're not done yet here. Okay, so I use these guys as the morale for the Confederates, and these guys as the morale for the Union. Now the problem is that everybody has to take a morale check now. If you fail your morale check, you have to move, which means that Union unit, if it does not pass its morale check, is going to be forced to retreat into an enemy zone of control that is not negated, and it's going to be bye-bye. So here we go. So basically we need a 5 or 6 because they have a -1 modifier. Oh, it's a 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. They're forced to retreat again. So thanks for playing. Here's some nice party gifts for you. Okay? Now this applies again to all surviving units on both sides. So the Confederates will have to check everybody as well, okay, to see if they have to retreat. Alright, so we'll just start with the artillery and work our way around. So the artillery fell back. One of them did. Top battery had to retreat, so we'll pull them back across the creek there at the ford. Okay. The infantry up there at the top rolled a 5, they're good to go. The bottom unit rolled a 3. So unless they're a +1, which they're not, they're a 0, they will have to fall back as well too. Okay? Alright, and then these two guys down here, let's see where they're going to go. Top one retreated, and the bottom one was fine. Okay? Alright, so quite a disordered assault over there on the northern flank of the battlefield at this point in time. We'll have to see how that plays out and whether that means anything here as the Union gets ready to be activated as well here shortly next turn. Okay? Alright, we got a few more combats to fight here, so let's just go ahead and we'll do that. So we've got this one here, which is 12 to 5, that's 2 to 1. Attacking into woods and across the creek there, though, too. So that's actually going to be 2 to 1, 1 to 1, 1 to 2. But again, 1 to 1, 2 to 1 coming back up for the surprise attack. So 2 to 1 for both sides. The Union, of course, unfortunately has the -1 modifier. The Confederates actually have a +1. That top one there, if you can see the 774, actually has a +1 modifier to it. Okay? So, let's go ahead and take a look at the combat this time. Union luck is starting to run out a little bit, I think, here. Okay? Alright, so the Confederates rolled a 3 plus 1 rather, is a 4. So 4 at 2 to 1, they inflicted 1 point of damage, and they will force them to retreat. Okay? The Union rolled a 2 at 2 to 1, and unfortunately for the defender, that is a dash. So no luck there. Okay? So these Union units will have to retreat 1 hex, and now they'll have to do a morale check to see if they have to fall back yet another hex. Yeah, I know, for those of you playing at home, you probably noticed the Union die was gray. Okay, see, what I do is, for whatever side I favor, I use my favorite dice. And my set of favorite dice is just different colors and different dice that I just think are cool. So, that's that. Alright, unfortunately, 2 minus 1 is 1. So these guys fell back. These guys will be able to advance. Now, zone of control does not hinder advance after combat. And now we're ready to roll again. Okay, so these guys are going to attack here. Now this is going to start out as 1 to 1. With the creek in the woods, it will drop to 1 to 2. But with the surprise, it will go back up to 1 to 1. So this is a little more of a balanced attack. But again, unless I could have retreated those guys, I could have had them fall back 1 hex up to here. Okay, we're along the West Corinth Road. But I wanted to show you guys just how the game works and everything. So, all right. So now we got this battle going on here. Okay, so the Union rolled a 4 at 1 to 1. Minus 1 is a 3. That's the defender. So that inflicts 1 point of damage. The Confederates rolled a 3 also at 1 to 1. And they also inflicted 1 point of damage. Okay, so both sides will get flipped here. Alright, along the Oak Creek. Which, by the way, if you're interested in the Battle of Shiloh and you've never been to the battlefield, you should definitely go. I was there, oh God, 17 years ago, the summer of 2003 I was there. And it was a great experience. It's one of the best battlefields too, because it was one of the first. So a lot of the survivors from the battle came and were able to mark where their units were, and they've got markers everywhere that shows, you know, like the 10th Indiana, for argument's sake. Just, you know, hypothetical here. I don't know if there is such a thing as the 10th Indiana. I'm not that much of a Civil War historian. You know, it's just right where it was, you know, and the Bloody Pond is there, and the Hornet's Nest, and all that stuff. So if you're into Civil War stuff, you definitely should go to Shiloh. Shiloh is definitely worth the effort. It is, to me, it is one of the best battlefield parks that I've been to. Definitely top 3, without a doubt. Okay? Alright, so let's do a morale check on these guys now. Okay? Now, again, we use the modifier that's on the counter, so Union's minus 1, and Confederates are 0. Well, both of them have problems. Union rolled a 4 minus 1. That's a 3, so they have to retreat. But they rolled a 3 outright, so they have to retreat too. Okay, so we got one last fight down here. Really, that's more of an artillery duel. That's going to be more of a bombardment here, because there are no infantry involved. Although they can fire at point-blank range, so I guess I can go ahead and still do that. Let me just double-check here. Yeah, okay, so you can't bombard. Let's see if I can just do, like, let's see, combined attack. I haven't done too many of these. That's just kind of happened. I usually keep my artillery separated better. As far as I can tell, it's just going to be a shootout between the two of them. So we'll just address it that way, and we'll kind of work it from that perspective. There. Okay. So, let's take a look here at this little blasting back and forth of artillery, which of course really didn't happen. I mean, you know, very much, if at all. But for the purposes of the game, okay, both sides of 3. Alright, so odds, oops, I forgot to do the odds there, sorry. So 4 to 5 is 1 to 2. The terrain is clear, so that's not going to affect anything. Okay, with the surprise, it's going to go 1 to 1, 2 to 1. So 2 to 1. The Rebels have a 3. That's 1 step of damage. The Yankees have a 3, but the morale is minus 1. So they will be nothing, a dash again. Okay, so the Yankee artillery will take a hit and flip over. And now they'll have to do morale check. Anytime you take any kind of damage in the game at all, okay, even if you're a surviving unit in the combat that didn't take any damage, Literally, like if you're not the one that took the step loss, you still have to do the analysis. And it's a 2, so they're going to have to retreat as well. So I'm going to pull them back across Oak Creek there for the retreat. And then the artillery can advance, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave that be. Okay, so that's how combat basically works. Alright, now, end of turn, there's not much really to talk about with the end of turn. I mean, end of turn is pretty straightforward, unless it's a night turn. Night turn, of course, does make things a little bit different. After the last combat, or last marker has been drawn, then you just go ahead and move on to the next one, okay? Now, since the Union was attacked, I'm going to go ahead and add their command markers in. Okay. Now, normally, if you attack sooner, which I was doing a lot of maneuvering here, basically you would add the Union markers that were attacked specifically, and then the next phase is when you would add them in. But since turn 6 they get added in automatically, it doesn't matter. So let's draw a couple of markers just to see what's going to happen here at the beginning of turn 6, because you can see I got a big hole down here. So if I can rush Bragsman into here, and of course collapse everybody else, this could be UGLY and got no alibi. Let's see what we got. Okay, so I pulled Polk's Corps. So Polk's Corps is going to move first. Alright. So 1, 3, and I'm going to leave the cavalry there. 2, 3, 4, send those guys crashing into there. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. I still couldn't get close enough. Okay. This is going to be bad here, though, because this is going to be... Yeah, well, I could have them fall. No, there's no road there. Never mind. Okay, let's get the artillery up first. So, 1, roads are half. 2, 3, so I can move them with them. Send them across the ford. 1, 2, 3. And then these guys are going to basically be 2 for the creek, and then 2 for their 4, so they're kind of stuck. But I've maneuvered into position again to strike that Union unit if I can. And by the way victory is measured is by these red starred spaces here. Okay, so that's what you're really going after here. Okay, alright, so the 6th Division of the Army of the Tennessee. So the first Union activation here. Alright, well that's good news because these guys here are all part of the 6th Division. These guys over here, they're all 5th. Yeah, they're 5th. Okay, but I can go ahead and try to pull these guys back to a more defensible position. So that was lucky. So again, the nice thing about chit pull, of course, is that you can go ahead and you can basically try things, take risks, hoping that, hey, you know what, I don't draw this chit before this next thing happens. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these guys back. Boy, Bragsman can just race up into there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and... Am I going to gamble here? Should I try to totally slow them down? I think I will. Okay, so 1, 2 and a half, and then 1, 2, and I'll leave those guys there. And then here we're going to go 1, 2, 3. I'll put those guys right on top of the victory point hex. Okay, so I'll try and sell my life as dearly as possible. Okay, this time the 4th Division of the Army of the Tennessee, the yellow. Okay, well that's good because now I can move them over here. Whoops, holy cow, I moved the world. And try to set up a defense line over here, so that's good. Okay, so let's do that. So 1, 2, and then 1 and a half. Let's see, 2 and a half, 3 and a half. Okay, and then I'll bring these guys up. 1, 2. Yeah, that might be a better way to deploy this. I'm not gonna lie about that, but it's been a while. Let's just put it that way. Okay, and then these guys, 1, 2, 3. And I'll just make them kind of my reserve here at the crossroads near the Hornet's Nest. Next marker, boy, the Union's getting lucky here. The 5th Division of the Army of Tennessee. That's all the guys up here in red. So I'm going to pull them back to a more defensible position too and try to get them away. Alright, so 2, 4. I can't move the artillery any more than that. I'll hook the cavalry down to here. And then these guys, I'm just going to put them there to take a stand. They're going to have to maybe take one for the team, so to speak. So the Union can live to fight another day. Holy smoke, look at this. Here comes the second one. The 2nd Division, all the blue guys. Alright, the boys in blue, as it were. Alright. So let's, I want to try and bring them up here and try to set up a new defensive line across here. So let's see if that'll work. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And I'll leave them in the woods there. 1, 2. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And actually, let me just stop here for a second before I do 6 or 5.5. If there are 2 units already stacked, stacking limits 2 in a hex, then if you're on a road, and let's say the road was here in this forest hex, you have to pay the other terrain in the hex. You can't use the road movement. Too many troops, basically. And then here, this artillery will go 1 and 2 and 3. We'll keep them in the middle so we can swing them either way, depending on who's threatened and who needs help. Okay, well, this has been most interesting so far. Oh, here comes Bragg's men. Okay, so Bragg will get his chance to activate now and try to come to grips with the enemy. Alright, so let's see. Now, see, this cavalry is going to be a problem, trying to get enough troops in there to attack. But let me see if I can do it. So 1, 2, 4. But now we're going to have this problem down here. So 1 into there. And then, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So I'll use those guys to tie down those guys there. 1. Shoot. 3. Yeah, I'm going to try and go down there. I'll keep the cavalry in reserve over here. Yeah, it may not be the best plan. Alright, Hardee's men, the brown guys, can go ahead and move next. So they're going to keep the pressure up. So I'll move them into there. 1, we'll keep the pressure down there on that artillery. And then let's see, 1, and we'll bring them into there. And 2, 3. I know that's probably not the best use of my cavalry, I get that. But I should probably be trying to swing them more behind like I was at the beginning. But it kind of gets hard when things kind of get congested. Yeah, okay. Here comes Breckinridge's boys, the Reserve Corps. Now, the question is, which way do I want to send them? I really should send them into here to fill this gap, so I think that's what I'll do. So let's go 1, 2, but I think I actually move them to here. Yeah. 1, 2. I'll keep those guys to cover the flank. Same thing with this cavalry. And then 1, 2, and we'll bring the artillery up behind them. Okay. Okay, now we already pulled Hardee's Corps. So that basically, that's a little more activation there. Bragg also has been pulled already. So again, remember, when there's 2 markers, you only get to move the first time it's drawn. You don't get to move both times. Doesn't work that way. Wow, this is very unusual. Of course it is. Here's the 1st Division of the Army of Tennessee, the green guys, as it were. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and try to establish a defensive line up here behind this stream and this creek with the guys in green, as it were. We've got one more down here. Yeah, I'm still going to do that. I'm going to go 2, 3, 4. I know that's kind of backtracking, but I want to try and swing them around. I'm trying to get them there faster. Maybe it would have been faster to march through the woods, but that was just a pain. And of course, we already moved Polk's 1st Corps like ages ago. And now finally we'll get a combat phase. Okay, we'll get the Union combat phase here. Now, again, I'd have to attack here, so I might end up dropping all these guys back, okay, and trying to pull back to keep them from having to attack. Because if you're in the zone of control of an enemy unit, you must attack. Everybody has to be attacked. And as you can see here, you know, with this cavalry, these guys, this would be suicidal. This would be pretty close to suicidal there too. Okay, up here would be all right. But I'm not going to go ahead and do the combat phase again because we had a very lengthy combat phase earlier in this video. So, so that's the Shiloh battle, at least a turn of it anyway. So, basically, again, it's a real straightforward, pretty easy game. It's fun. It plays fast. And again, it's very solo-friendly with the chits. Now, the combat thing, one of the biggest criticisms I've seen in the game, of course, is the combat markers. Because if you draw the combat marker at the wrong time, then you can't, you know, you really can't coordinate your assault. Which, from a game's terms, of course, does seem hokey. But from other perspectives, it does make sense. I will say this. I'm trying two different ideas with this, two variant combat approaches with the game. The first one is modeled on the Clash of Giants Civil War game done by Ted Racier, which was done by GMT, where both sides have a combat marker, and then once per turn after you activate a formation, because his is a chip pull system too, then you can attack with all the units that are involved. I'm going to try that with that, see if that messes things up, if that throws the balance off, because really that's the most important thing here. The second thing I've been thinking about maybe doing is with still keeping the combat marker, but trying to launch a coordinated assault. I've been thinking about maybe doing it like using the method that's used for a grand assault or a corps assault in the Great Campaigns of the American Civil War, designed by Joe Balkowski and Ed Beach. Being involved with that project heavily too, and basically say, let's say that, you know, you've drawn, let's say I drew Bragg and Hardee, okay, so in order to use both of them and coordinate both of them for an assault, if I wanted to, with my combat marker at the end of the turn, then I'd have to roll better than a 2. I'd have to have 3 or better. If I roll a 2 or less, then I can only use one of them. That kind of thing, you know, like with the grand assault idea. So I've been thinking about doing that too, but again, it depends on how many formations there are. Some battles will be better, easier than others to do that with. But you could come up with your own variant for each of that, you know. You could even just make a table and say, okay, you're trying to coordinate a grand assault for a small battle like Bull Run. And you could be like, okay, you know, 1, 2, it doesn't happen. You know, 3, 4, half the units will attack, and then, you know, 5, 6, they all attack. Something simple like that. So that's what I'm kind of working on there. Okay? Alright, I have to admit, I went off the deep end on this. I have a boatload of games coming. That's not an exaggeration here. It's the biggest single game order I've ever done in my life. I got a little carried away. But, you know, as my wife says, well, Father's Day and anniversary are not too far around the corner. So I actually have a package coming tomorrow with 10 games, 9 of which are Civil War. So I plan to share some of those, if not all of those, with you. A bunch of the games are all from the same system, dealing with the 7 Days battle as part of the Peninsula campaign in the early summer of 1862, because I live near Richmond. So, of course, that's of great interest to me. Alright, so there you go. That's across 5 Aprils. From Victory Games way back in 1992, I believe, is the copyright. Yeah, 1992 is the copyright. Whoops, 1992 is the copyright on this. Okay, so next time I'll be coming to you from a Civil War game. I don't know which one. Like I said, I'm kind of working on the Antietam scenario, but I'm trying to figure out precisely when McClellan could have first been on the march. I think I got it figured out. I think he could have had a half-day's march on September 13th. And again, I've been looking at the maps here from this book I got, which is a fantastic book, as you can see there. You know, it's got the map and then it's got the text on the other side. So this is just for the Antietam campaign, which I find the Antietam campaign to me is one of the most fascinating ones. But it goes all the way down into the battle, you know, and even showing, like, half hour, hourly deployments, who's fighting, who's doing what. I mean, this is a great atlas. If you want an atlas for the Battle of Antietam, this is definitely the one to get. I highly recommend it. Okay, so I will see you next time again from somewhere on the fields of brother against brother, north versus south, blue versus gray, however else you want to phrase it. Okay? Alright, so this is Tim Portnoy from Bare Bones Wargaming saying thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time.